for the start of this event. My name is Payton Bergman, and I had the privilege of being on the Communication Appreciation Day Planning Committee this year. This event holds a special place to me because it was after attending this event 2 years ago that I decided to attend UND to pursue a degree in communication. I loved attending this event and being able to see the collaboration among students and faculty and the tangible work that students produce to show how much they have learned in their coursework. I loved getting to see the opportunities available to students in this department, and it cemented my decision to attend UND. I am super proud of the work that our team has put into this event and want to thank you all for attending today. I would now like to pass it off to Dr. Kim for our opening ceremony.
Well, welcome everyone. What a beautiful day to celebrate the successful and fun year that we had in the communication department. My name is Soojung Kim, chair of the communication department. We're very excited to host you and then spend this afternoon celebrating what we have done so far. A lot of the fun events that we have planned, so I hope you can join us throughout the day. Some people were asking how many Calm Appreciation Day we've been hosting. And then there were COVID years, so numbers got mixed up. So what I've been telling is that this is the first one after our centennial. So it's a new era. And then we've got a lot of fun programs. Especially this one is very special because we've launched our journalism degree back this fall. That has been so fun, and then we've welcomed a lot of new faculty members, new students. We had last summer, so June of 2024, we had Digital Storytelling Summit, the first one that we had high schoolers come to campus, teach about journalism, digital storytelling. We have about a handful of those high school students actually with us today, presenting what they learned later this afternoon. And we'll end the day with a scholarship ceremony. We have about 40 students, and some of our generous donors are here. It's going to be a really fun and exciting day to celebrate what we have done so far this year. So thank you again for your time, and it's my pleasure to introduce the Dean of College of Arts and Sciences, Brett Rundquist.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you, Dr. Kim, Dr. Lee. Thanks to the students, staff, and faculty in the Department of Communication for organizing and hosting this event. I did have in my notes it's the 4th annual, but after that comment, I crossed that out. We don't know what it is, but somewhere around that, first one after the centennial event, UND Communication Appreciation Day. And really, all of you in the communication department do such an amazing, fantastic job of this event every year. I'd like to take a minute, let's give a round of applause to all the effort that goes into this and the good work. Also want to extend a warm welcome to UND alumni and community members here today, including our prospective UND students in the audience, several of whom took part in the communication department's digital storytelling showcase last summer. I got a chance to visit some of that activity last summer. Fantastic to have those students on campus working on journalism and communications projects. Also, congratulations to our incredible scholarship winners who will be recognized later this afternoon, and their friends and family who have joined us today. And a sincere thank you to our donors who make such scholarships possible. It's an honor to be invited to make a few opening remarks this afternoon. And I'll start by repeating what I've said at past events opening this event in the past, and that is communication is a great major, and it's a great area of study. It's something that all students should experience, in my opinion. But it's more than a major. It's a pathway to personal and career success. And strong written and verbal communication skills are essential in many industries and cannot be taken for granted. So this is not something that comes natural to a lot of people. So it's something that needs to be learned and practiced, and it will pay off down the road. And while many of our communication majors are interested in careers in public relations, marketing and advertising, journalism, human resources, event planning, etc. A communication degree really sets you up to thrive in a wide range of rapidly evolving career fields. And as many of you, as you know, my undergraduate major was news editorial journalism. I worked as a newspaper reporter and editor for a few years right after my undergraduate degree. And although I've changed career trajectories a few times since then, and also those 2 rounds of graduate school, I always tell people not a minute of my time was wasted learning about communication theory in journalism. I use that knowledge and those skills every day in my current job, and I've used them through grad school. I used them in other jobs that I've had. And in fact, I think that's what's enabled me to be flexible. So when there was some opportunity to change direction in my career, go a different way, I had those skills and that knowledge from communication to take advantage of those and make a move. So the bottom line, I think, for me today is that your world-class Department of Communication faculty are here to provide you with expertise and know-how that will undoubtedly serve you well throughout your life's journey. And I'm just very grateful to their commitment, your faculty's commitment to your success as students. So thank you, faculty. How about a round of applause again for faculty? And now I'd like to move into the Hagerty Lecture portion of today's program, exciting keynote part of today's activities. The Jack Hagerty Lecture Grand Forks Herald Endowment was established in 1984 by the Hagerty family in the Grand Forks community to honor the late Jack Hagerty upon his retirement after 25 years with the Grand Forks Herald, including many years as editor. The Hagerty Lectures over the years have brought leading journalists to Grand Forks to talk on current issues in the profession. We are honored today to have with us Marilyn Hagerty, longtime Grand Forks Herald columnist and recipient of an honorary degree from UND a few years ago, and also the wife of Jack Hagerty. So thank you for being here, Marilyn. Today's Hagerty Lecture is presented by someone whose success makes UND and arts and sciences very proud, Mike Burbach. Burbach's decades-long career in journalism got its start at UND, where he was editor-in-chief of the Dakota Student. After graduating in 1982 with a double major in journalism and German, Burbach worked at the Grand Forks Herald, then became managing editor of the Aberdeen, South Dakota American News, and editor from 1992 to 1995 of the Minot Daily News. Stints in newsroom leadership at the Detroit Free Press, Columbus Ledger Inquirer, and Akron Beacon Journal followed. Then in 2006, Burbach became the editorial page editor of the St. Paul Pioneer Press. He was appointed the paper's editor in 2011. I'm intrigued to hear his presentation titled What I've Learned, I Think. So please join me in welcoming Mike Burbach.
Good afternoon. That's who I am. Good afternoon. I am so happy to be here with you today. It's an honor and it's a pleasure. Thank you, Dean Rundquist and Chair Kim, for the invitation and for your hospitality. Thank you to the Hagertys and the Grand Forks Herald for sponsoring this talk. Though I never worked with Jack, I was fortunate as a rookie to have met him once or twice. And Marilyn was one of my first bosses at the Grand Forks Herald. Marilyn's annual Christmas column, where she goes back just for a few minutes to her childhood Christmas on the farm in South Dakota, rings a bell for me every year. I look for it every year, Marilyn. My thanks and congratulations also to the UND School of Communication on 101 years now of serving the students of UND and the people of North Dakota. Your work and how you do it is important to us all. My relationship with UND began 50 years ago when the Pembina High School track team came down from the border to the big city. The meet was in the UND field house. It was big, full of people. I ran the 440 that day as fast as I could, which, as I recall, if the object was to finish ahead of the other runners, was not fast enough. My more formal and much more intimate relationship with UND began a couple of years later. In the fall of 1977, I had picked the biggest college I could see from Pembina, and there I found myself, a UND freshman in room 29A of Walsh Hall, a self-conscious, lower-middle-class kid, oldest of 8 siblings, working work-study. I delivered mail back and forth from the UND athletic department to Twomley Hall, which was a great little job, without a clue of what to study. I sampled some subjects, including an intro to reporting class taught by an accomplished reporter. After a few assignments, he told me he thought I maybe could make it in journalism and sent me over to the Dakota Student newspaper to try. I tried it, liked it, and have been working to make it in journalism ever since. That's where I came from. 6 states and 8 more newspapers later: Bismarck, Grand Forks, Aberdeen, Minot, Detroit, Columbus, Georgia, Akron, Ohio, and St. Paul for the last 19 years. I'll tell you now where I'm coming from. It's always good to know where somebody's coming from. It helps to figure out what they might be saying, what they might mean, how they came to mean it, and whether, with that additional context, it makes sense to you or not. I'm 66 years old and toward the end of my years as a newspaper editor, and into the final quarter of my life if I stay lucky. I've had cause and occasion in recent years to think about what I've learned along the way and what to make it. In 2011, my wife and I adopted 3 little girls. I joke that I'll call the book 0 to 60 at 50. Parenthood, sudden parenthood, is a mind-bending experience, in a good way. In the news business, the years since then have also been momentous, tumultuous. Shrinking staffs, rising competition, stress, tension, challenge after challenge to our credibility, some of which we have absolutely brought on ourselves. Adjustment after adjustment. In 2018, after having not managed work and worry optimally, I decided to get healthy again. It was going well, was losing weight, eating better, drinking less, regular at the gym. One Saturday at a nice long workout, I thought, shoot, I'm going to live to 90, just like my dad and his dad. Then the pain started. It wasn't grab your chest pain like in the movies. I figured I had just pulled something. But it persisted. I started to get concerned. So I drove off to pick up our 9-year-old twins at their dance class, dropped them at home, told them I was going to get groceries, and started driving to the ER. The pain got worse, more enveloping, and so I stopped at the neighborhood clinic just a few blocks from our home. Walked in, waited in line like a nice, polite Nodak. When it was my turn, I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. The person at the front desk smiled and said, may I see your insurance card? I said, yes. Pretty soon, they walked me into a room, stuck an aspirin under my tongue, and wired me up for an EKG. I saw the tech give the nurse one of those 911 looks. And shortly, an ambulance from the St. Paul Fire Department took me the rest of the way to the ER, flashing lights and sirens and all. Then came emergency surgery to keep the widowmaker from making my wife a widow that day, and it took some doing, and I got another chance. It was a close call. So when I say I'm happy to be here today, I mean really happy. And not just here, but here at all. That's where I'm coming from today. From the tail end of a long career full of lessons that began right here at UND, under the influence of so many good people. I'm coming from all the experiences, good and bad, along the way, from a vision-altering look into the abyss, from a place of immense gratitude. That's where I'm coming from, and here's some of what I've learned, I think. Objectivity is a myth, and we shouldn't pretend to it. However, I like the quote from the diarist, Anais Nin. We don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. Our perception is the product of our own biology, our own environment, our own experience in that environment, and it's ours. What we see is what we see, whether it's what is or not. That's normal, natural, good, bad, helpful, unhelpful, all those things. It's human. It's who we are, what we are, and we live in the brief moments we have, so we have to deal with it. Dealing with it includes acknowledging it, acknowledging that we're not objective about anything, really. Acknowledging it especially when we think we have things figured out. We're not objective and we shouldn't pretend to be. However, 25 years ago, when Knight Ridder was a strong, big, strong, profitable newspaper company, they had newspapers in Grand Forks and Aberdeen and St. Paul and San Jose and Detroit and Miami and Columbus, Georgia, and all kinds of places. Somebody decided that we should take advantage of all that experience and compile a guidebook about the kind of journalism that we stood for. Another editor and I got to write the section on objectivity, the idea of which, the assertion of which was common in journalism departments and newsrooms back then. It may still be. I don't remember all of what we wrote, but the nut of it was this. Actual objectivity is a human impossibility, but the pursuit of it is useful, and for journalists, essential. Which means we work hard to recognize our own biases and assumptions, and we work hard to account for them and counter them, because we need to figure things out. That takes shoe leather and often enough mind-bending effort. We have habits of mind like we have habits of eating or sleeping. Listening to understand rather than just hear can be challenging. Interrupting our own patterns of thinking and perception and bias can be hard. Thinking critically can be hard, but it's worth it for our own good and for the good of the craft. Therefore, another thing I've learned is, hi Eric, hi Jackie. Another thing I've learned is we should take everything with a grain of salt and sometimes with a grain of sugar. Everybody's coming from somewhere. Everybody has a story to spin, an axe to grind, a drum to beat, a sow's ear to turn into a silk purse or vice versa. Pick your metaphor. We're all coming from somewhere. Nobody's objective, nobody's omniscient, nobody has the whole story. That doesn't mean they're not telling the truth as they see it, though some aren't, nor that they're trying to deceive us, though some are, nor that there's not nutrition in whatever they're serving, because there almost always is. But a grain of salt, especially when we're being fed by someone we like, agree with, or connect with, brings a little balance to the dish. A grain of sugar, especially when we're being fed by somebody we don't like, or agree with, or connect with, does the same. Not too much salt, not too much sugar. Those are bad for us. As I see it, skepticism, purposeful skepticism, is the right amount of salt. Cynicism is too much. We want constructive skepticism, 360 degrees of it. A desire to know more, a desire to keep asking, a desire to try hard to figure things out. Curiosity, in another word. Which, one thing always leading to another, taught me another lesson. Compound interest is indeed a miracle. This idea, the miracle of compound interest, is normally associated with savings, with investments. An investment earns interest, and then the next year earns interest on not just the original investment, but also the interest. Same thing the next year, and the next year, and the next year, and pretty soon, after a few decades, your $10,000 is $170,000. Likewise, interest in the world around us also compounds. An original investment in learning something about, say, the Red River as it rises, earns interest. As we then learn more about local geography and why the Red River Valley has some of the best farmland in the world, and then about the inhabitants of the valley before it was farmland, and then about Glacial Lake Agassiz, and then more about the recent ice age, and the wobble of the earth and solar cycles and other influences on climate, and then about plate tectonics, and the origins of life on earth and our ever-evolving everything. Interest upon interest, compounding, delivering a stunning turn on investment, context, which in turn whets our appetite for more. I think of compound interest like that, one discovery leading to another, and compounding into more understanding when I think of Mike Jacobs. the lifelong NODAC, polymath, and former editor and publisher of the Grand Forks Herald. Not because I ever heard Mike say those words or talk about that concept, but because it's how he read, how he led, and how he rolls. His curiosity was, lucky for me, contagious. In 1998, after the Great Flood of 1997, coverage of which won a Pulitzer Prize for the Grand Forks Herald, the National Press Foundation chose Mike as its editor of the year. The awards dinner was in Washington, D.C. at the Hilton. It was a fancy, well-attended black tie affair. At the head table with Mike were such luminaries as Michael Bloomberg, later the mayor of New York, Cokie Roberts of NPR, Donald Graham, publisher of the Washington Post, and others, all big names with big jobs at the time. I got to say a few words introducing Mike. In that city setting, to that city audience, I noted that some people may think North Dakota is in the middle of nowhere. But because of Mike's curiosity, I said, wherever he is the middle of somewhere, somewhere interesting. Interest upon interest compounding. One thing leads to another, and the next thing we know something else, and then something else, and our world becomes ever more intriguing. And we, interestingly, become more humble, with more due respect for what we don't know. In the early months of the COVID pandemic, late 20 or 21, when so much was going on and so much unknown, we were trying to figure out how to be useful day after day in the newspaper at the St. Paul Pioneer Press. Generally, our organizing principle was based on the idea that the persistent thing people wanted to know was, what's my risk? One day I decided to call Michael Osterholm at the University of Minnesota to get some perspective on a few things. He's the director of the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy there. He was on the national news often during the pandemic. You might have seen him. I asked him a few questions, and I said to him, one of the things I appreciate about you is that when you don't know something, you'll say, I don't know. Well, he said, I find that the older I get, the more susceptible I am to learning. And that's what curiosity does for us. It's like an anti-vaccine. It lets good stuff in and triggers genes that affect perception and context. Interest compounds. The context it returns makes us smarter and humbler. Speaking of context, leads to another thing I've learned. Every project, every movement, every question, every point of view has an organizing principle. It may be explicit, implicit, conscious, subconscious, unconscious, but it's there. We're always orienting from somewhere, and it takes work to stay oriented. So the lesson for me is this: always organize around the good thing you want. Getting things done in a group, in a newsroom, at home, on a school board, in a university department, wherever, it requires a shared sense of purpose. Sense of purpose requires an organizing principle, an idea to orient from and to. Liberty and justice for all is an example. Free speech is another. You can trust us is another. In any group larger than one, the pursuit of such principles requires disagreement, argument, negotiation, and litigation in some form. As we reason and negotiate and argue, it's essential that we organize around the good thing we can agree on, or at least settle on, in order to balance multiple priorities and angles of view. Reason toward the good thing we want, express it, communicate it, orient our subsequent decision-making around it. Here's an example. One of my girls went to a Waldorf elementary school near St. Paul. Waldorf schools are very hands-on. They make things, they learn from stories, they spend lots of time outside. This one had chickens to raise and care for. They emphasize human interaction, they're attuned to the seasons, and they're definitely not attuned to digital screens. So they attract a variety of passionate families, ranging from lefties to righties, and some people who are hard to stereotype. Before the pandemic, I joined the school's parent council, an advisory group, just to help out behind the scenes. The chair of the parent council had to leave suddenly, and because I'm generally amenable, The head of school asked if I would chair the council, and I said yes, not giving much thought to the idea that the chair of the parent council automatically had a seat on both the school steering committee and the governing board. Then came the pandemic and all the upset and dissent that brought. And then there was the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, with all the reaction and upset and dissent that brought. In the heat of those moments, the board of this small, not particularly well-funded school had to make a lot of decisions, like all schools. Whether to stay open, how to balance risks and competing priorities, what the rules would be, what the consequences for breaking the rules would be, what to communicate, how to communicate. School in person, remote, hybrid, masks everywhere, somewhere, nowhere, all of that kind of stuff. Behind the scenes, there was good faith, but also fear, anger, and suspicion. Everybody wasn't on the same page, which is almost always the case. Political factions developed, and in tense times, factions have a tendency to see malice in people who don't agree with them, and sometimes only malice. As I look back on that time, I think about what kind of decision-making, what kind of communication, what good organizing principle would have made things easier. This one would have. Our aim is to keep kids in school. If you're organized around that, your decisions can flow from that. What should we do to mitigate risk? Do we have to wear masks if kids aren't at risk? Well, we have teachers and staff who range from in their 20s to their 60s, and they don't have backup, so if teachers or their families fall out, we don't keep kids in school. Suddenly, the trade-offs make much more sense because we're organized around a good thing that we pretty much all can agree with. Another example, closer to home. I've been in countless, Kirsten, you may have this experience too. I've been in countless newsroom planning sessions that begin like this. There's a big thing going on next month. How should we approach it? The immediate responses come fast. Well, we'll have deadline problems, and we've always done this and such, and what are we going to give up to cover that? Who's going to do it? We can't do this. We can't do that. All legitimate observations and questions, but in the wrong order. The first order of business, the organizing principle, is deciding what we want to do. What do we want our coverage to amount to? What's the good thing we're organizing around? Then, after that, we work on the hows and whos and whatnots. Otherwise, we'll spend the whole day litigating details and talking ourselves out of doing anything. The good thing first, then logistics, then reconciling with reality. It's like tying a rope from the back door to the barn before the blizzard hits. We need to find our way out in the storm and back. Speaking of blizzards and zero visibility, here's another thing I've learned. We're always in a transparency crisis. We're always in a free speech crisis. Once or twice a year, I meet with visitors from foreign countries who are here on a Learn About America program, often sponsored by the U.S. State Department. I say yes whenever I'm asked, because it's always a pleasure. I always learn something from them, and because it's always, always a count our blessings moment. But it's never a we have it made here moment, because we don't. Our system of checks and balances, including our open government laws and culture, is impressive. And compared to many parts of the world, it's exemplary. But it's a long way from perfect. It's always under assault, and it's never safe. Usually the group I meet with is journalists, and we talk about the journalism scene in the Twin Cities, about the principles and culture that guide our sense of open government work and journalism. Last week, though, the group I met with wasn't journalists, but government officials from Congo, Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Uganda. They were an impressive group, and they wanted to talk about government transparency. I told them that from my angle of view, the foundation for transparency, that is, public access to the business public officials do at the behest of the public money, the public's behalf, is built on these 6 rocks. 1, law. 2, a way and willingness to enforce the law. 3, a broad cultural understanding and belief that public information belongs to the public, not to the government. 4, sustained effort by various, often competing, factions of civil society. 5, practice. It's like copyright law. The law says you have it, but if you don't defend it, you lose it. 6, good faith. I also told them that we can't take any of that for granted. Yes, we have the First Amendment. Yes, we have state and federal laws and rules about freedom of information. We have an extensive body of litigation that supports openness, but we can never, ever imagine that we can set it and forget it. Because all our systems involve people, and openness and rule of law aren't the way of people. They're not the way of the world. These rights that we assert, they're rights only because we assert them and practice them and defend them over and over through the years, decades, and centuries. Every year there are proposals in the Minnesota legislature, North Dakota too, for example, to tighten access to this public record or that, close off more sections of public information, to create exceptions to open record and open meeting laws, protect quasi-public bodies making public decisions about public money from having to do it in public. Often enough, these proposals come from associations that represent government entities or government employees. They're almost always framed as attempts to protect individual privacy, or to save taxpayer money, or to protect proprietary information. And sometimes they are that, but there are always trade-offs. Generally, the outfits arguing for less transparency have staying power and political leverage. Those arguing for more transparency have less of both. That's why we have to count on civil society, that is us, all of us, in a variety of manifestations and factions to persist, to argue for the good thing we want, to win people to this way of thinking, and to come back and do it again. Civil society, by the way, isn't always civil. Heroes of democracy often are quite cranky, and it behooves us to see beyond their quirks and crankiness, which brings me to another thing I've learned. To look hard for everybody's strengths and spend most of our time and effort there. In the early years of my career, annual job reviews were a big deal. The forms were long and detailed. They went over strengths and weaknesses with rankings and comments. They had their virtues, but in the years since, I've decided that we should spend almost all of our time discovering, developing, and encouraging the strengths of our colleagues, the strengths that people bring to the table. I've worked with journalists who struggled to write their way out of a paper bag, but were brilliant at getting information. I've worked with others who were as personable as a camel with a toothache, but who were like Sherlock Holmes when they dug into data. Here's the thing about a strength-centered approach to management or just life. We all know that we're good at some things and less good at others. When we know that somebody sees what we're good at and appreciates it and wants to make the most of it, what happens? We want to give it to them. We think, they see me. When we feel seen, appreciated for real, when we're seen in context, we can take direction better, we can take criticism better, we want to get stronger, we want to make the most of it. Kind of like what I learned about a grain of salt, but instead of 360 degrees of skepticism, it's 360 degrees of appreciation. We're all different. We all have different combinations of strength. Nobody's all that, but everybody's some of that. In closing now, I want to pull these pieces together, end where we began, and add one more thing that I've learned. Curiosity, interest, the pursuit of objectivity, the pursuit of understanding, cultivated ability to see the strengths in each other, due respect for what we don't know. These things compound over time. In the business of journalism, in the business of life, they never go to waste. All kinds of little things compound over time. And when we develop the ability, by virtue of age, or an untimely look into the abyss, or some other shock to the system, or by virtue of intention, when we develop the ability to look back and appreciate the moments of kindness, of grace, of encouragement, of benefit of the doubt that we've been given through the years by friends, family, strangers, teachers, adversaries, it's almost overwhelming. So I've learned this: gratitude is magic. Through the lens of gratitude, the world with all its woes and trials is a beautiful place. I find myself thinking about people who I've known as far back as I can remember and noticing things about them, wondering more about who they were and where they were coming from, appreciating them. I find these thoughts instructive, both for how I think about the past and how I can see the present and future. One insight leads to another, one appreciation leads to another. They echo backward and forward. They compound. So let me finish by reprising this little bit that I contributed to the School of Communications 100th Anniversary History Project last year. From every single teacher, PhDs and practitioners alike, each with his and her own remarkable strengths, I learned so much. Skills, yes, but more importantly, concepts and values and attitudes that enriched us then and enrich me yet now, more than 40 years later. The transcendent beauty of curiosity, the absolute value of constructive skepticism, the liberating joy of precision, the bounty of economy, the atomic power of a generous spirit. These things I saw in our UND communications faculty as they instructed us, corrected us, guided us, and sent us on our way. Kevin, Vern, Zena Beth, Chuck, Howie, Steve, Terry, Tom, and all who have carried the torch for these 100 years, 101 now, thank you so much. And thank you all for being here today. I wish you adventure, love, gratitude, and all the best.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mike, for the lecture. We're going to open it up for a Q&A session with our audience here. And then we're going to hand out the handheld mics for our Zoom recording session or the live streaming. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand, and then we'll find you to go get you the microphone.
Questions?
Hello, everybody. All right, you've been doing this for a long time, right?
Been doing it
Is
for a long
this,
time.
the challenge to just cover the news today, how is it different from other tumultuous periods in American history?
Yeah, so here's a big difference from 40 years ago and now. Back then, the newspaper, the local newspaper, really was the center of civic conversation. And we had enough people, we never had enough people, but we had enough people that the metaphor of cover actually worked. We could get out there and cover. We can't really cover stuff now. We have to make more choices about what not to do and what to do. But we're still attached to this legacy when the newspaper was the center of civic conversation. And so there is this mix of expectations. People who have been reading it for a long time who expect us to still be that. And then increasingly, everybody else who have different expectations. And the other thing that plays into that or that affects that, in my experience, is that everybody now is a publisher. I'm a publisher, you're a publisher, everybody's a publisher. My kids are publishers, everybody's a publisher. So there's a lot more out there. It's an explosion of freedom is what the internet brought, and that's generally good, but explosions blow things up, like our business model. And with everybody being able to say whatever they want, there's the chance for factions. There's a chance for all kinds of stuff to grab hold. And what that tends to do, Kirsten's question, is have that the combination of that and the old expectations leads people to think that everything we do or don't do is a conspiracy. that we have decided that you stink and that's why we didn't cover your thing, or that we love you and that's why we did cover your thing, and that's not true. You know, there are days when we are doing everything we can just to publish that day's newspaper. We do not have the time or the ability to manage all those conspiracies. So there's that's more difficult. But there's also something to it. You know, when I talk about organizing principles being subconscious or unconscious, they are. And there are a lot of things we do just because we always have, and we haven't stopped to consider, why do we cover this thing like that? You know, why don't we ask this question or that question? I get people calling a lot of times and saying, in one way or another, why don't you just print the truth? And what they mean is, why don't you print my truth? And they have a point. They all have a point. So that's somewhat different from how it was 40 years ago. I always wish we had more people, because there's, you know, the more you learn, the more you think there's great stuff to go out and write about. There's great stuff to find. And so it's frustrating to not have the resources we used to have. But then, as Kirsten knows, you just have to decide that you're going to approach the world, you're going to approach the day by saying, what am I going to do with all the great resources I have today? Can't spend any time on yesterday.
Mike, I'll follow up on that. I love your view on objectivity. Was there a criticism that you can think of in your mind that helped form that, your shape on objectivity, or is there something that sticks in your mind that maybe helped shift that?
I think it developed over time as I listened to more and more and more people. You know, I've listened to literally thousands of people in the 45 years I've been doing this, and they come from lots of different places, and they have lots of different angles of view. And the more that you explore the question of, why do you think that? How did you come to that conclusion? The more it fixes in your head that we all see the world through our own eyes. Plus, I like to read a lot about evolution and about natural history and about how we humans came to be what we are. And when you do that, you realize, you do anyway, but when you do that, you realize that we're a product of our biology. You know, we're a product of what evolution picked to get us here. A bat and I don't see the world the same way. You know, my dog and I don't see the world the same way. And humans have, you know, 99.9% of our DNA is the same, but, you know, what do we have? 20 million base pairs and trillions of cells and all these ways that things can interact. We're going to see things differently. So it's an over time thing, but mostly, I guess, the precipitating influence was hearing so many different people talk about so many different things from so many different angles. The other thing that got me was when journalists would say, why are you, you know, we journalists would say, why are you challenging my angle of view on this? I'm objective, which sounded like nonsense from the get-go, you know. We're not. Doesn't mean we're against you. It doesn't mean that we're acting on our biases, although we are, because some of them we don't even know about. You know, biases like breathing, you have it. But the idea that somehow our perception stands above perception of all the other humans, it's just offensive. Offensive. There was another question here.
Over the last 50 years, we've seen a progression of things, local moving to national, moving to global. We have our post office, which has always been so dependable, and it's being broken down and privatized into something that eventually could disappear. where would we be with our post office communication? And the same thing is happening, of course, with our journalism. Our journalism has always been a rough and tumble industry, whether it was local or global. But we're putting so much emphasis now on all of these supposedly citizen journalists that are on these social media platforms that can disappear at any time, and they probably will. And so we're not really becoming as democratic as people are being made to think. What would you think about the idea of trying to get back to citizen journalism in a real way locally?
So like I said, the internet created an explosion of freedom, including that, and that's generally good, but it blew up business models. And our business model, that is a big audience that we could sell to advertisers for a lot of money, funded big newsrooms. It gave us independence. We could say, no, you can't influence me that way because I've got this big business. And that's what has undermined everything, and it's just the way of the world. It's not what you can do. But what I would hope for, and what I think will happen in a variety of ways, is that the market demand for credibility, for information you can trust, will help create a new business model that delivers what you're talking about. There are amazing citizen journalists out there. I mean, there are people who do it for free, and there's good stuff, but we can't count on that. We can't count on that. So I hope we can discover, through lots of experimentation, and there's lots going on out there, a sustainable business model for news that delivers credibility, that delivers news we can trust. I think it's going to be a really bumpy ride. Now, some outfits, like the St. Paul Pioneer Press, basically it goes like this. So in the old days, our revenue came 80% from advertising and 20% from circulation. That trend line is going like this and has been for 15, 20 years. There's another little trend line down here, digital subscriptions, that's going like this. It's the only growing part of the business. So we got to get this line to somehow connect with that line before this line drags us into the ocean. All the experimentation that's happening out there with citizen journalism, whether it's Substack stuff or social media stuff, is going to help. But what we have to hope for is that the market demands credible information somehow in a way that can be sustained. I don't know how it's going to happen, which is not to say it's not going to. I think it will. People want to understand things. That's a long answer to your question, and I don't think I answered it. But I'm with you.
Hello. From being in this position and seeing such change in the ways we interact with each other throughout the years, do you believe that there is a most vital method of communication, or do you think that they bounce off of each other? Bounce off of each other.
A viral method of communication, or
Vital, important.
vital? Yeah. Well, if you think about the way social media work, you've still got people with relationships, right? They're relying on their relationship to their friends. Some of them are friends, some are just friends, or to somebody who sees the world their way. So there's still a relationship there, and I think that is probably the vital thing. The thing that I worry about is, can we develop enough respect for each other to have a democratic republic? Can we redevelop enough respect to each other to have a democratic republic? Justice Sandstrom here members, different times in our political history where people got along a little better. They weren't just trying to choke each other at first sight. And I think we can do that. I mean, the pendulum always swings. But at our core, we're now, who knows how long this will last with Neuralink and all this other stuff, but at our core, we're humans and we're social creatures and we crave each other. So you got to hope that enough people work for that. I think we will. I really do. I made my kids are still young. The twins are 16. When they got their cell phones when they were 13, we held off as long as we could. I made them sign a contract, and it had everything from the parents can look at your phone at any moment without a warrant to I will not walk across the street with my face in my phone and get run over. Made them sign that. Finally, we let them, they bugged me forever. Finally, they got Instagram last week, a couple weeks ago. I made them sign another contract. And it varies from some of that stuff to, I will not become a different person because of what I've seen on Instagram. I will not believe everything I see on Instagram. And they got it. They signed it. Maybe they're pulling my leg, but they signed it. They said, I won't. We get it. We understand. I think there's a lot of that out there. I think people want to figure things out. I do. And I think that's the vital part of it, and who we are as humans.
You mentioned you're from Pembina, and being from that region myself, raising kids in that area, what advice would you give kids from small towns these days? They often feel like they are lacking for resources and opportunities. What advice do you have?
Where are you from up there? Walhalla. Oh, that's great. North Border is a consolidated team up there that all the people we played football against are all on the same team now. See, maybe that's hopeful. I think that's hopeful. Well, I would say, so through the years, I've worked in a number of different places, and I always look for Nodaks. I always look for North Dakotans. And sometimes they come out of there shy, because here. What I tell them is, you got to know that your sense of responsibility, your work ethic, your regard for small, what the kind of regard you get in a small town because you know everybody and you better behave or accept the consequences. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. The things that you have, going back to my strengths thing, the things that you have going for you are a big deal. So my advice would be, know your strengths. That's one thing. Another thing would be, get yourself out there somehow. Everybody does it in different ways. We're all wired differently. But I didn't know when I came down, this is partly a function of the time, not just the place, but I didn't know when I came to UND that I could actually get to know my professors, that we could just visit. I didn't know it. And when I discovered it, it's like somebody took a front-end loader and dumped a load of gold on me. It was really something. So my advice would be, load yourself up with curiosity every day. Do it in your own way. Not every some people are shy. We're all self-conscious, whatever. And believe that the world, somehow try to believe, do things that help you understand that the world's accessible to you. You belong in it. So my advice would also be, if you get a chance to go someplace, do it. If you get a chance to do an exchange program of some kind, do it. Often enough, interns, we have a lot of interns come through the Pioneer Press, which I love. Often enough, they might say, well, I got this choice and this choice. When I'm done, what should I do? And my answer normally is, it almost doesn't matter what you do. It's how you apply yourself. Because there's so much value in that. And so my advice would be that, try stuff, just try stuff. because you don't know what you're going to discover. But it is, there are wonderful things about small towns. I feel so lucky that I got to live in Pembina. But there's a lot of stuff you don't know too. So my advice would be try to find ways to know that. But believe in yourself. You gotta, because you got stuff that the world wants. I would say that. Have them call me. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
I didn't ask this for Marilyn, but we're so happy that she's here. So I was wondering, Marilyn, you would be open to say a few words about Hagerty Lecture series or the new journalism, whatever comes to your mind. I didn't ask for this before, so it's a little impromptu, but.
Well, my job is asking questions. I very rarely answer them, but if anyone has a question, I would try real hard to answer it. Might be kind of embarrassing, but I've asked a lot of embarrassing questions in my career. You see, they don't ask questions. They just...
What's your favorite story you've ever covered in all your years?
Whew. I never stopped to think about my favorite story, but it was like Mr. and Mrs. Joe Cochran of Blunt, South Dakota were in Pierre on business Sunday. That would be a city brief, and we had a 4-page newspaper in Pierre. And if you could fill the 4th page with city briefs, that's what they wanted. So I would start out and go up and down Main Street and Pierre, and I would see who went to the Black Hills for the weekend and who took their baby on a trip to the Rochester because of some kind of illness. And sometimes people would try to trick me, and one of the clothing store managers in Pierre told me that someone went to the Black Hills fishing, but they told me the wrong kind of fish that they don't have in the Black Hills. And I put it in the Capital Journal, and that gave them all something to laugh about. But it was not an earth-shaking career, but working as a journalist for 50, 60 years, whatever, it hasn't been work, it's been fun.
How did coming from a small town help you?
Oh, coming from a small town helped me because I could know everybody in that small town, and I knew a lot about them. And we had 4 pages in the Capital Journal when I was in high school, and when I went to the University of South Dakota, I certainly majored in journalism, and they taught me to do more things than I did on the Pierre Capital Journal, but we mentioned everybody in Pierre, and it just was a matter of walking around and going up to the state capitol at times and going to the county courthouse, but mostly talking to Joe Blow and his wife on Main Street and putting it all in the paper. I think they read the Capital Journal to read the city briefs. Times have changed, I know. Meeting Anderson Cooper. Well, I have a little hard time remembering all that, but one thing has led to another, and it's been an opportunity to meet people like that and find out that they're all pretty human if you just settle them down and have a cup of coffee with them. And you don't usually get to do that, but if you stay with journalism through a long lifetime and you get old and you talk to them, you learn more things all the time. Journalism is a lifetime career. You can never quit. And if you're nosy like I am, you start life writing city briefs for the Peer Capital Journal or wherever you live. You end up on a big paper like the Grand Forks Herald. And it isn't work. Journalism is a profession that is fun. It's interesting. It's lively. You get to know a lot of people. It's something that I'm glad it happened to me because I couldn't find a job anywhere else when I was in high school. And so it's the best thing that ever happened. They turned me down at the funeral home because I told them I could answer the phone, and they said they didn't need me. And the movie theater, the Bijou, they didn't have any jobs. They didn't want a kid like me. And the Peer Capital Journal said, no, we don't need you. And I was walking out the door when the publisher and owner, editor said, oh, he said, I haven't cleaned my desk for 20 years. I could use you this summer. You could clean my desk. That was my first job in journalism.
Before we hear from the digital storytelling students, we are hoping to take a group photo with everyone. So if about half of the audience can stand on stage and then half in front of the stage, we're just going to shoot a quick photo.
Here or what? Yep. Doing? I'll go on my tiptoes. Oh. Hey, why are the wheels? Actually, the next speaker.
I just will stand right here. Oh, the skin.
Check.
Hello, my name is Junghwa Lee, Associate Professor of the Communication Department and the organizer of the Digital Storytelling Summit at UND. The goal of this event is to really educate high school students to understand the importance of communication. We believe that whichever major they will end up choosing, being able to communicate, especially on digital and social media, is such an important skill these days. We are hoping to achieve that goal through this event.
I think it's a fantastic opportunity for students to come in and learn a little bit more about telling stories. Storytelling is such a powerful tool in a variety of areas. It's really an important skill to have.
Putting myself in the student's shoes, I know I would have appreciated having an opportunity like this in high school to just be able to get more information on things that are possible for me when I go into college and just finishing up high school as well.
One of the highlights of the camp for me was getting to go down to Fargo and tour WDAY and see all of the equipment that they use and getting to hear from some anchors and some people who work behind the scenes.
I really liked learning how to use the cameras and how to film, and then also using different programs and how to produce videos.
The Digital Storytelling Summit was an incredible opportunity for organizations like the Empire Art Center to network and interface with the next generation of communicators.
The high school students have had the chance to work with professionals from across the community, clients within Grand Forks, and other professors, and hear about communication techniques and different tactics that we can use to be better storytellers. I think I have seen them grow tremendously over the last 5 days. They have had experiences in video editing, interviewing, writing, and all of it is really going to help develop them as storytellers in the future. My favorite part has been meeting with all of the students and learning more about them. It's been really fun to see how shy they were on the first day and then how much their personalities have shined throughout the week. They've all been extremely successful in all of their projects and have been working with the clients so well. So I'm very excited about how the camp has gone.
My overall impression about our first Digital Storytelling Summit was that it was extremely successful. The purpose of this summit was to really tell and teach our high school students about the importance of storytelling and then skills to make a good story. We are very impressed by the growth of our high school students. Just for a few days, they've shown us how motivated they are and then how responsible they are to work together with other group members.
We are very excited to continue with this summit next summer. It will grow so much over the years from the success of this first year.
Huso, and I was one of the digital storytelling coordinators, and I'm a senior this year.
Hi, I'm Lilly Goodman. I'm a sophomore at Red River High School. The Digital Storytelling Summit was a great opportunity. I was able to learn a lot of new things, and I met some great people. For our project, we worked with the UND Chemistry Department. We created a newsletter that included a brief history of the department. We interviewed a couple of professors, and we also wrote about some things they wanted highlighted. We also created a video to showcase it.
My name is Paul Ponsegra, and I'm a teaching assistant professor of chemistry here at UND.
Hello, my name is Shayna Mattingly from UND Department of Chemistry, and I'm here today to do the thermite demonstration.
Chemistry is worldwide. You can work on anything. You can go into a medical area, you can go into a biological area, you can do anything. Basically, the world is yours. The American Chemical Society is, I believe, the largest professional society in the world. There's just a lot of doors that'll get opened for you. Why should you study chemistry? Okay. Do you know how much chemistry there is in your cell phone? The whole thing is chemistry. This is an iPhone. I've got it in an OtterBox protective case, so it doesn't get broken too easily. The outer case here, polymer chemistry. The hard, rigid case, on the outside, more polymer chemistry. The computer chip that runs this thing, that's chemistry. Okay, so the next time you use your cell phone, just think about the chemist you should be thanking for that. I mean, it's definitely a hard science, but the faculty is willing to spend time with the students and make sure that they get the most out of each semester.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eli Fricke, and I was also a media coordinator this summer for the Digital Storytelling Summit. Currently, I'm a junior studying communications and marketing. Overall, this experience was really fun to work hands-on with not only Caitlyn here and the other students that were in my group, but also the Grand Forks Optimist Club, and kind of being that intermediary for the student and the client to fully work. And seeing the students grow together and cultivate a storytelling video and overall project was really cool to see as someone kind of advising it. So yeah, I'll let Caitlyn here take it away.
Thank you, Elijah. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, dear UND Communication alumni, staff, and student interns. My name is Caitlyn, and I'm a junior at Central High School. Last summer, I was one of the participants at UND's Communication Digital Storytelling Summit. I had an incredible experience from associating and interacting with professors and UND student interns, to participating with the community's Optimist Club as well. We've gathered stories, learned media editing, journalism, writing, and much more. I even got to pretend to be a news reporter, which you don't get to do every day. And this experience has allowed me to understand the transformative impact that communication and storytelling can have, as each of us carries a unique story. It was not only the greatest opportunity to be involved in an event like this, but it has also allowed me and other students to get a head start on a higher extent of our education, working alongside UND students, Dr. Lee, and other fellow staff. Learning from their guidance and leadership was such an honor. I was so immersed in researching, creating, and working alongside the students. For a moment, I forgot I was a high school sophomore. And my team and I chose to build a story about the Grand Forks Optimist Club. Following what Elijah has mentioned, I would like to share with you what the Grand Forks Optimist Club is about. It's a nationwide nonprofit youth-centered organization that works within the town's local community. Since 1972, it has been run by volunteers who work alongside multiple other businesses in Grand Forks. Their primary objective is to help their youth, local life and safety, and the well-being of humankind. They hold events and fundraisers of many sorts throughout the year, and to make these events happen, the club works with other local organizations, such as the Grand Forks Public Library and Safe Kids, both of which engaged in summer community fairs and safety events. This is an organization that values all of their community and helps them develop to their fullest potential. And here is the video that we have created for all of you.
My name is Caleb Schoonover. I'm a chiropractor, and I'm the Grand Forks Optimist Club president. Our main mission as the Grand Forks Optimist Club is to be friends of youth and help to improve the lives of the youth from our communities.
My name is Karma Hanson. I'm the coordinator for Safe Kids Grand Forks, based at All True Health System. Our mission is to reduce the number of preventable injuries and deaths to kids under age 19. We say that our work is focused on keeping kids safe at home, at school, at play, and on the way. And so when the Optimists and Safe Kids come together, we do a lot of work around children's safety. They will focus on, a lot of times, the fundraising aspect of it that will help support the work that we do, or they will help with the execution. For example, we do a program called Safety on Wheels, in which Safe Kids goes into the schools around our community and region, and we do a head injury presentation and bike helmet distributions. And about a week later, the Optimists follow that up by doing a bike rodeo in the school parking lot. So our missions of focus on children align very closely to one another.
Aaron Stefanich, Children's Services Director at the Grand Forks Public Library. And with the Optimist Club, I guess we're more of a, they support the programs that we offer. The Optimist Club has donated funds, including our summer reading program and our robotics program. We most recently our daycare outreach kits.
It gives me a lot of pride to give back to the community, and obviously serving people we see every day, especially the children. And yeah, it gives me a lot of pride to know that I'm making an impact that way. So our main funding is from our membership, but also our fundraisers, mainly our bowling tournament, our gift wrapping throughout the year, a few others, fudge sales and fruit sales. And all of our funding goes towards our youth projects. So giving away bikes, sponsoring helmets, Boys and Girl Scouts. New members are always welcome. Their first weekly meeting, we even buy them lunch. We just want to get them in the door and see what we're all about. And hopefully they love our club and our creed just as much as we do, and maybe something resonates there. And looking forward to grow our membership of really good, involved members.
Overall, I would definitely recommend other fellow students like me to participate in this program's event. I found it to be such a great opportunity to get a glimpse of the college experience. Furthermore, it provides a variety of opportunities that allows you to improve your skills, such as learning communication, obtaining stories, writing, media editing, and the exploring of possibilities for your different career paths. I'm super excited overall, and I can't wait to start my educational journey at UND next year. On behalf of our team, we thank you so much for giving us a glimpse of our future path. This has been such a positively impactful learning experience, and I can't wait to come back. Here's to another event. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Dylan Niemi. I'm a comm major in sports marketing, and I was also a media coordinator at the Digital Storytelling Summit, and our group was the Empire Arts Center.
Hello, my name is Benjamin Carpenter. I'm a homeschooler and I am a junior. I got the opportunity to attend the Digital Storytelling Summit last year and had an amazing time. I had a big hand in preparing the feature story and put in front of you on the screen. It was lots of fun to take some information that we got and create a story out of it. I also got the opportunity to conduct an interview in the video that you'll see later, and it was great, it was fun, it was lots of fun.
Hi, my name's Keanu. It was a great experience to have this. Not every day you could get to go to a college and just like internships, go into a different program, do something you're not used to, and have fun while doing it. Like going to the dorms, for instance, or finding new friends along the way. One of my favorite things was going around, looking at the city, going inside the theater, and looking at the interior of what it was. A building that has a legacy that's pretty important to the city.
Hello, my name is Noah Clooten. I'm a senior at Devils Lake High School, and this event was really awesome. I got to collaborate with other creators like myself. UND did a great job of putting this on for everyone, and I was kind of behind the camera, but being able to collaborate with these guys to kind of have different ideas how to make the video and being able to edit and use different angles and stuff to make this video come alive. So we will play that for you now. So enjoy this video from the Empire Arts Center.
I came to Grand Forks in August of 2017. I came up here to study at the University of North Dakota, graduated in the spring of 21, and fell in love with the community and chose to stay here.
All right, and then when did you first start working here at the Empire Arts Center?
In October of 2022, I had a different job in town before then, still in the nonprofit world, but knew I wanted to get into marketing and communications, and this opportunity opened up. I have a background in coaching speech, and I was in choir in college, so it was kind of a natural calling to come to an arts center.
For sure.
I graduated with a degree in political science, and a lot of those things that I learned in terms of public speaking and persuasion and those kind of soft skills that translate to marketing assist me in my role every day. Our Empire Theater Company does a full season of shows. We have all sorts of different productions that happen here. So maybe one day I'll venture on stage, but I do love being in the background and capturing those moments to showcase to the world. This building is 105 years old. It was built in 1919, and it's seen a lot of great work. The gallery that we're currently in has had some renovation. Our auditorium has seen various technical upgrades.
Yeah. What's the most interesting thing you find here at the center?
The wide variety of events that happen here. In a given calendar year, there is something for everyone. So whether you like plays and musicals, concerts, movies, comedians, whatever it might be that happens here. Or if you just need this space to use for a birthday party or a wedding or a graduation party, a business meeting. So many different things can happen here, and so many things do happen here. That's, I think, what makes the Empire Arts Center a special place.
Thank you to UND for putting on this amazing event.
Me again. So this year, I will be the event coordinator, and I don't know if I can promo as well as Caitlyn did, but like everybody said, they had a lot of fun. It's a lot of good experiences for the students. We are opening it up to Minnesota kids as well. So Minnesota, North Dakota high school students, let them know, tell your friends if they have kids that are interested. And now we'll be moving on to the Career Roundtable. So if I could have everybody move over there for the Career Roundtable, and so that we can get to know each other.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Communication Scholarship Ceremony. My name is Payton Bergman. I am a senior communication major, and I'm excited to be sharing some background on our generous donors and announcing our scholarship winners this afternoon. Our first scholarship of the afternoon is the Mark L. Carlson Scholarship. I will begin by reading a few words from Dwayne Sweep about Mark and the scholarship. I first learned of Mark Carlson when I was working as the news editor of the Journal in Crosby, North Dakota. Mark worked in rugby at the Pierce County Tribune. Mark became editor and publisher of that newspaper in 1982. In his years at the newspaper and rugby, Mark gained and held the respect of newspaper men and women across the state. He had a love for journalism and his community. Mark was not only a strong journalist, he established a reputation as a community leader. Mark was strong enough to know that being a community leader did not mean that you ignored the tough stories that had to be told. Mark knew, too, that communities thrive when they meet challenges and then move forward. Good journalists are a necessary element of strong communities, and Mark was a good journalist. Years later in my career, when I had the opportunity to lead research projects for major newspapers around the country, one of my colleagues compared weekly newspapers to baseball's minor leagues. At the time of his comment, I thought William Allen White of the Gazette in Emporia, Kansas. If you don't know him, look him up. He used the small town as a metaphor for all society. His reputation spanned the country. Today, it makes me think of Art Collin on the Storm Lake, Iowa Times pilot. Back in 2017, Art won the Pulitzer Prize for editorial writing. The other finalists in that category that year were from the Washington Post and the Houston Chronicle. Art is a community journalist and friend of mine. He also makes me think of Chuck Haga, who some of you may know. Chuck, too, is a teacher, community journalist, and friend. Today, when he is able, Chuck helps young writers, young journalists, become better. More than 40 years ago, Chuck helped me. Mark Carlson was a community journalist, an excellent one. While Mark died young, he was only 43 when he died in 1996, he left a legacy. Mark's legacy can be found in a rugby, of course, but it can also be found at the University of North Dakota through the Mark L. Carlson Community Journalism Endowment. Community journalism has not changed nearly as much as some might think. While I still am fond of ink on paper, the news I consume today comes from many sources. There are still newspapers, of course, but news comes from broadcast and podcasts, X, Substack, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and more. But the ability to communicate well, to gather information and express it well with your audience, your community, in mind is community journalism. In that way, community journalism is as important today as it ever has been. You gather information, you tell stories, and if you do it well, you serve your community just as Mark Carlson did. Now I'd like to welcome Sarah Davis, the daughter of Mark Carlson, to the stage to present the award. The Mark L. Carlson Scholarship goes to Madison Dame. Next, I'd like to share a few words from Sarah Garland about her award, the Sarah G. Garland Communication Scholarship. I apologize for not being with you in person, but I appreciate your allowing me to share a few thoughts about the scholarship that I established a few years ago. Congratulations to all of today's scholarship recipients. When I was a journalism student at UND many decades ago, I received a $1,000 scholarship from the North Dakota Broadcasting Company. It led to an internship at KXJB in Fargo, and then to my first full-time professional job as a reporter and co-host of an afternoon talk program. It was a transformative experience. I had 3 goals in establishing the scholarship. First, to provide today's students similar financial support and professional opportunity that was given to me in 1968. Second, to ensure that the critical future of journalism and communications is in the hands of the best and the brightest, a strong recommendation that your students watch 2 movies and 1 documentary, All the President's Men, 1976, Spotlight, 2015, and Becoming Katharine Graham, 2025. And 3, when possible, to award the scholarship to a Native American student, a vastly underrepresented group in American journalism. I am delighted that the UND journalism program is being resurrected. The timing couldn't be more crucial. I hope that your program's required reading list includes the First Amendment of our Constitution. Even though it was adopted 234 years ago, it couldn't be more relevant in 2025. My thanks to you and Dean Rundquist for your leadership and your inspiration for today's students. The Sarah G. Garland Communications Scholarship has been awarded to Quinn Berg, Fallon Fagerland, and Michaela Richards. The Thomas S. Dietz Memorial Scholarship was established in memory of a longtime UND professor, Thomas S. Dietz, Jr. The recipient must have an emphasis in visual journalism and demonstrate an interest in print journalism, graphics, or photography. Here are a few words about Dr. Dietz shared by Kim Yeager, who is a 1980 UND journalism and political science alum and retired daily journalist for the Dubuque Telegraph Herald, Grand Forks Herald, St. Paul Pioneer Express, and the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. When Soojung asked me to pen a few words about Dr. Tom Dietz, my first reaction was that I was honored. My second, what's my column inch count, as there is a lot to cover. Dr. Dietz was equal parts whip-smart, creative, humorous, and skeptical, all of which held him in great stead teaching students how to be good print and visual journalists. His office in the basement of Merrifield Hall, or home base when it was primarily a journalism department, held prominent signage asking, "Who put the S in communication?" A thumping sound would sometimes emanate from there when he graded Mass Comm 101 term papers. He wielded an ink pad and a rubber stamp with the letters BS, which he reserved for particularly turgid or poorly reasoned writing. He believed in communicating clearly. But it was his love of learning that made him such an extraordinary leader. Tom's curious mind was always taking in new information and challenging his students to ask why, whether we were researching a story, trying to understand a situation, or accepting an answer from a source. Most answers, he said, needed a follow-up question, and he was so right. Tom served as faculty advisor to the Northern Interscholastic Press Association. which I headed during my last 2 years at UND. We served North Dakota high school newspaper and yearbook staffs, providing critique services and operating workshops. He ensured we took seriously the work of inspiring high school students to take scholarship journalism and the First Amendment seriously. Tom loved to tinker with electronics and spare parts littered in his office. He built the department's first electric newspaper production lab from scratch in 1978, using cast-off parts from the Grand Forks Herald when the newspaper was installing a new front-end production system. It is a feat that amazes my classmates and even me today. Tom was passionate about typography and graphics and inspired a love of them for many of us that he taught. He was equally enthusiastic about painting, mostly with acrylics, and for projects he could do with his son Stuart and daughters Kim and Lene. His energy seemed boundless, his enthusiasm was catching, his standards were so high. Congratulations to the student who was able to further his education with the scholarship bearing Tom's name. The Thomas S. Dietz Memorial Journal Scholarship has been awarded to Lincoln Retzlaff. Dr. Stephen Rendall was a beloved communication professor at UND, known for his passion for peace journalism, cross-cultural communication, and storytelling. He taught at UND for over 40 years and inspired students around the world. The Stephen Rendall Memorial Scholarship honors his lifelong dedication to education and the impact he made on our community. I'd like to welcome Robin Rendall on stage to say a few words.
Steve was always about celebrating students, he was about education, and he was about international studies. He loved the fact that he had a theme as he was getting ready to retire that he called his 3 T's. He wanted to be about travel, teaching, and trees. Now, one of the things about his trees element is the creative side that he always had. He was a painter, just like Tom Dietz. They had a lot of things in common, liking to tinker with mechanics and all kinds of things. He was a musician. He loved woodworking. He built mahogany rocking horses for kids. We raised Arabian racehorses, show horses, and just fun horses. And we also liked to plant a lot of trees. We live on his mother's and grandmother's farm south of Grand Forks. And at one summer, we planted 600 trees. That was our big year. But we mainly planted trees almost every year that we've been out on the farm. I've lived there 50 years now. Steve lived on the farm for 40 years. So we were people that did kind of stay in one place for a number of years. But one of the quotes that we both always loved was a quote from Mark Twain. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. And we both felt that that was something that was really important. So with Steve, travel was key. He came from a family, both his mother and father were very internationally related. They were from immigrant families from Norway, both of them. He was 100% Norwegian. And his mom's family, the farm that I live on still now, is, when she came as a 16-year-old and homesteaded her own land. Quite an independent woman. And so, but every year she was very much in tune with education. So the education that you could get in rural Grand Forks County back in the day was not necessarily so good with the one-room schoolhouse. So she would take her family back to Norway so that they could have a Norwegian education. And when they were small, so several years they traveled back and forth every winter and then would come back to North Dakota to farm. His dad's family was the same kind of a situation. Doing lots of traveling, lots of international work in the State Department, and working with ambassadors and doing all kinds of things. There were missionaries in the family that worked in Madagascar and in Mexico. So there was always people in the family that were doing things internationally. With Steve and his teaching, he tried to combine that because he loved UND, but he also loved traveling. So he started here in about 74, but in about 85, the American College in Norway got started over south of Oslo in Moss. And that gave an opportunity for UND students and UND teachers to go to Norway and teach for a semester or a summer. And so that got started, like I say, back in about in about 92, 93. And it's been going now for 32 years. About 3,000 students have come through American College in Norway, and Steve was one who taught over there 6 different times. There was a lot of collaboration, too, with other departments at UND. Sociology was one of the big ones. And Jan Moen, I don't know if a lot of you know her, but she was one of the ones that collaborated. We did set up a scholarship also that's with UND for travel expenses for both teachers or students to get over to Norway. So that's still out there too. This award, though, is just for a communication student. And so Steve also was in the Philippines teaching. He brought Chris Maslog over here as an editor to do some teaching. He worked in China, in Shanghai. He worked in Romania. And some of you older folks that have been around, you maybe remember Sorin Nastasia. He is from Romania, came over here. They got their PhDs at UND, and now they're still in America teaching down south. Steve did a lot of seminars and a lot of things in other countries. Anytime he could figure out something to do in a foreign country that he could go to, whether it was through his international communication organization or the Center for Peace Journalism, which he got actively involved with Chris Maslog in the Philippines and a lot of the Southeast Asian journalists. They did a lot of things in Singapore and Malaysia and Philippines, Kyrgyzstan, South Africa. So I could go on and on. There were lots and lots of international experiences. Some of the serendipitous things that have just happened within the last years. When you teach at UND for 41 years, you've got a lot of students that are out there. One of his students was from one of the Russian states, Tatiana Dumova. Maybe some of you remember her. But Tatiana is teaching at a college I'd never heard of, Park Point University in Pittsburgh. And I mean, I didn't know anything about that college, but guess what? Our grandniece went to Park Point. The first day she's in the communication class because she's going to major in communication, of course. So Tatiana says she has a North Dakota connection. And so Sydney Rendall goes up to her after class and says, well, my uncle, I'm not realizing it was her great uncle, but my uncle was at North Dakota. Well, of course, one thing leads to another, and Sydney Rendall meets Tatiana, and Tatiana and Steve had published some papers together, and so there's a North Dakota connection in Pittsburgh at Park Point University. That kind of thing happens all the time with Steve's students. Just this past winter, I was in Mexico walking on the beach, having a great time with my best friend from high school that we were in college together too, and we've been friends for like 61 years. So her husband and I are looking at some boats at the ocean, and she's visiting with some people that are standing on the beach as she's waiting for us to catch up. Sure enough, it happens to be Terry Lewicki from Winnipeg, who was here working in public relations for years, but also taking about 12 years to get his PhD here because he was only part-time. So it's just amazing what can happen. My award winner this year, and for Steve's scholarship, is a SOTA like I was, a North Dakota SOTA, student older than average. It's a real thrill for me. I got a chance to visit with her yesterday, and her favorite quote is also the same Mark Twain quote, "Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness." But she reminded me there's a second part to the quote. Wholesome, charitable views cannot be acquired by vegetating while sitting in a little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. And even though Steve and I lived for 40 years on the farm, and I've lived there now 50, yeah, he never let the grass grow under his feet. He always was out there making connections with people, having international experiences, and the heart of his life was building those bridges through a constant work with communication and journalism in a world that's vastly in need of a lot of compassion. Through his whole thing of working with 3 T's, travel, teaching, and trees. I want all of you to think about what your potential might be, and with your job, how are you going to integrate your life with your passions, your job, and your creative side, and build bridges with the rest of the world. So I'm just very thrilled to be able to give this award to another SOTA, another student older than average, who is also a military woman, and just somebody that I had a joyous time visiting with yesterday, and hopefully we can connect and keep going as she gets her communication degree, but she's also adding her journalism component now, because she may have to have some job changes in the future due to the current situation. So it's just a real thrill for me to give the award out to her. Thank you.
The recipient of Randall Memorial Scholarship of She's a distant student. Here, I'm glad
All right, next we'd like to welcome up Barbara Beach to the stage to share a few words about the David Beach Memorial Endowment.
First, I'd like to say it was a real pleasure to watch the digital storytelling part of today's program. I found it very, very interesting. Of course, it's something that I knew nothing about, so I really appreciated that chance to learn about that. My husband, Dave Beach, died in 1986, and in the 39 years that he's been gone, the one word that describes those 39 years is change. I can't tell you how many times the endowment has been changed, the wording has been changed, the funding has been changed, the faculty has been changed. It's been changed, okay? And I want you to know that in the beginning, when first after he died, the students worked at the radio station, and there were some funds for work study, but most of the time it was volunteer work to make the station run. And so I wanted the scholarship to be for a student who worked very hard at making KFJN work. Well, that worked for 2 years. Then the financial aid office said, you can't do it that way anymore. much to my dismay. And they have to have the funds go through their financial aid requirement, so they have to apply for the scholarship. Well, it wasn't quite the same thing, but I said, okay. And then President Baker decided, I'm not sure what year, he decided to change the name of KFJM to KUND. Well, that makes a lot of sense, but Dave Beach didn't want that name because when you look at it, it kind of resembles a slang word that's not so nice. But even though President Baker knew that, he changed the radio station to KFJM. And then, of course, they had to replace Old Science, so the radio station had to move, and I'm sorry I don't know the address, but it was a building that housed the Valley Dairy Store in the basement. And so they worked at the radio station, make it good. One of the things that Dave did when he was alive was establish the first FM radio station, 90.3, and he was so proud of that because it extended the listening area past Devil's Lake. He was so proud of that. Well, then, as luck would have it, the UND faculty decided that they needed money and they weren't going to support public radio anymore. So what does that do to the scholarship now and how to honor Dave? Well, at the time, we decided that it would be an internship. But as change goes with the local radio stations, that was kind of impossible. So we had to come up with a new plan. And I want to thank Dr. Soojung Kim, Stephanie Peterson, Mitch, and Tracy. We all met to try to find a way to honor my husband in a way that he would be so proud. And we came up with a plan. But I want you to know that when he was manager of the station, he is the first one who brought back a CD player. And KFJM was the first radio station to use CDs. Now, all of you may laugh at that, but it's one way that he wanted to prove that KFJM was going to be the biggest and best radio station, not only in Grand Forks, but in North Dakota. So what we decided upon was having students who take the digital recording class, they would have an opportunity to receive a stipend for a podcast that they would design and have it be a bigger podcast than what is at the class allows. And this will provide opportunities for students. It all depends. They have a chance to earn up to 3 credits, and it's up to the student to decide how many credits they want to earn, and their stipend will be based on that. I think Dave would be smiling now because digital recording is the very latest thing. And since he was responsible for the very latest thing in CDs, he would be smiling down at all the students coming to work on digital broadcasting and having a great podcast. And I congratulate all of you with all your scholarships, and I hope next year to be presenting the award to a student next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. The Ad Altoria Debating Scholarship was established by a bequest of J.F.T. O'Connor and was named for an early debating society. The scholarship is awarded to applicants who have demonstrated outstanding public speaking skills. The Ad Altoria Debating Scholarship is awarded to Andrea Alcali and Ellen Gregoire. Adrian R. Dunn was a UND graduate and the executive director of the North Dakota Education Association. He died in 1986, and his friends and family endowed a scholarship in his honor. The scholarship benefits students with a degree path in journalism and/or political science. The Adrian R. Dunn Memorial Communication Scholarship goes to Ava Ruby. Beulah Ram Gullickson was a 1936 UND graduate and recipient of the UND Alumni Association's Sue Award in 1995. This award is given to a communication junior or senior with emphasis in public relations. The Beulah Ram Gullickson Communication Scholarship has been awarded to Heather Callahan, Caitlyn Christensen, Jack Erickson, Tia Jorgensen, Mia Nixon, and Autumn Pulver. Boyd Christensen's journey at UND began in 1955, where he put himself through school with part-time jobs, showcasing his strong work ethic. His dedication to the field led him to become an entertainer and radio and TV producer, leaving a lasting impact on the campus and local communities. In honor of Boyd's legacy and their profound gratitude for the education they received at UND, Marlene Christensen, widow of late Boyd Christensen, established the Boyd Christensen Scholarship Endowment. This scholarship reflects their commitment to giving back to the university that played an important role in shaping their and their 3 children and 8 grandchildren's lives. As the Christensen family has deep roots in the university, expanding 3 generations of UND graduates, the scholarship aims to support the UND Communication Department students. This year, the winners of the Boyd Christensen Scholarship are Andrea Alkali and Aubrey Rudolph. This Douglas D. Radai Tatemeyer and Marjorie Tatemeyer Scholarship is given to a student in the Communication Department each year with an interest in strategic communication or sports communication. This year's scholarship recipient is Ellen Gregoire. The next scholarship honors Ellen Dahl, who dedicated her life to education. The scholarship is awarded to an outstanding communication student who gives service to the community. The recipient of the Ellen Dahl Hill Memorial Scholarship is Drew Handley. Ruth Sorley Edick, a 1939 UND graduate, established this next endowment within the UND Foundation in honor and memory of her mother and aunt. This generous endowment supports scholarships and priority projects within the communication program. The recipients of the Grace Sorley and Stella Mann Scholarship are Katie Ray Feemeyer, Addison Foley, Alexis May, Ava Mears, and Ava Wisegram. The James and Joanna Dalglish Family Scholarship was established to support students majoring in journalism. The recipient of the James and Joanna Dalglish Family Scholarship is Ava Ruby. The Communication Study Abroad Scholarship funds a communication student each year who has been accepted into a study abroad program. This year, the Communication Study Abroad Scholarship has been awarded to Annalee Stukshire. In gratitude for the quality of education he felt he received at UND, James Kurtz established this scholarship for juniors and seniors who have an emphasis in journalism. The recipients of the James D. Kurtz Communication Scholarship are Elizabeth Bonjean, Taylor Hess, Cora Hintz, and Olivia Kasowski. John L. Hultang, a 1944 UND graduate, established this award for students with an emphasis in journalism who have strong academic performance and the potential for career achievement. The John L. Hultang Scholarship has been awarded to Elijah Fricke and Camilla Hogan. The Joseph and Verona Maters Journalism Scholarship was created by Pulitzer Prize winner Melvin Rutter, who is a 1937 UND graduate. He created the scholarship in honor of Joseph Mater, who was chair of the journalism department from 1932 to 1936. This year's recipient is Kira Musel. The M.M. Oppegard Scholarship was set up by the Grand Forks Herald in 1969 and serves as a memorial to Oppegard, who had been the publisher at the Herald for 40 years. An additional scholarship was established by Helen Oppegard in honor of her husband to be given to a junior or senior interested in journalism. The M.M. Oppegard Scholarships have been awarded to Emily Hybe and Kira Musel. The next award was established in 1992 by Mildred Veach West's son in appreciation of his mother, a 1912 UND graduate, for her North Dakota roots and her journalism education at UND. This award goes to a student who has demonstrated ability and motivation to seek the highest level of achievement. The Mildred Veach West Memorial Scholarship goes to Madison Dame. Dorothy Nelson McGregor established the Nelson Memorial Journalism Scholarship Endowment in July 1978 with the UND Foundation in honor of her late brothers, Bruce, Rollis, Herbert, and Quint Nelson. McGregor, a native North Dakotan, received a Bachelor of Arts degree in English and Journalism in 1928 from UND. This year's Nelson Memorial Journalism Scholarship is awarded to Laurel Hunt. The next scholarship honors Paula Gra Nelson, who is a 1971 graduate of UND. The scholarship is awarded to a female student interested in a career in public relations. The recipient of the Paula Gra Nelson Memorial Scholarship is Abigail Funk. The next award was created in honor of Bob Hagen by his family, friends, and colleagues at the Star Tribune in Minneapolis. Bob was a 1967 UND journalism graduate. In 1975, Hagen was one of the first 10 journalists in the U.S. selected to study at Columbia University under the Knight Baggot Fellowship, a prestigious year-long course of study. This year's recipient of the Robert J. Hagen Memorial Scholarship is Michaela Richards. The next scholarship was established by the National Agri-Marketing Association, NAMA, in honor of Robert S. Kunkel, 1938 UND graduate who helped found the association. The award is given to a journalism student each year who shows academic achievement, moral character, and leadership. This year's recipient of the Robert S. Kunkel Memorial Scholarship is Lincoln Retzlaff. The next award was endowed by and in memory of Russell T. Asleson, a 1940 UND journalism graduate. It is awarded annually to outstanding communication students. The recipients of the Russell T. Asleson Memorial Scholarship are Caitlyn Christensen, Abigail Funk, and Alexandra Johnson. Our last scholarship of the afternoon is an annual award that honors the communication program's most outstanding undergraduate student. It was named after Larry S. Schlesinger, a Phi Beta Kappa alum and journalism student who was killed during the Normandy invasion in 1944. Each year, graduating seniors write essays to be considered for the award. The Schlesinger family and the communication program faculty selected the recipients. Please turn your attention to the screen for a video of Regina Anavi announcing the 2025 Larry S. Schlesinger Memorial Award recipient.
Hi, everybody. This is Regina Anavi coming to you from San Francisco. I'm so sorry I can't be there tonight to celebrate with you all. I would like to congratulate Olivia Lotus on winning the Larry S. Schlesinger Memorial Award. Olivia, I know you have a bright future ahead of you, and I wish you all the best. I want to tell you a little bit about my Uncle Larry and how this scholarship came to be established. Larry graduated with honors in journalism from the University of North Dakota, and he joined the Army after he graduated and went to military intelligence school. Because he knew French, they sent him to sneak into France before the Normandy invasion, where he made contact with the French resistance forces. He went to fight in the Battle of Cherbourg and was wounded and recovering in England in hospital when he suddenly died of a pulmonary embolism. After this, the Army sent a check, it was a death benefit, to his parents, and they didn't want to have anything to do with it. So they set up this memorial award. Of course, I never really got to know Larry because I was 2 years old when he passed away. But I did get a feeling for his personality and his enthusiasm and all of his interests from reading letters that my mother had squirreled away in boxes and in a piano bench, which my sister and I discovered after she passed away. So again, I want to congratulate you, Olivia, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good evening, everyone. It's truly an honor to stand here as a representative of the incredible group of students receiving scholarships tonight. I want to start off by thanking my donor. Your generosity and belief in students like me make college not only possible, but more meaningful. Scholarships like these allow us students to focus on our growth, goals, and the impact that we hope to have on others later on. As a proud member of the communication department, I've had the privilege from learning from professors and classmates who constantly go above and beyond. Their mentorship, encouragement, and support have pushed me to go both personally and professionally. I also want to recognize my fellow scholarship recipients. I know how hard you've worked to get here, and it's inspiring to stand beside you. To all the donors, please know that your investment goes far beyond the classroom. We dedicate our education and our futures to you and everyone that's helped reach us this moment. Many of us are lucky to be surrounded by friends and family here tonight. I want to take a moment to specifically thank mine. You've never failed to show up for me, and your constant presence and belief in me have meant more than I can put into words. I wrote this scholarship essay about my dad, who passed away in August of 2023. As much as I wish he could be here tonight, I know he's with me in spirit, smiling, and proud of how far I've come. Congratulations to all scholarship recipients, and thank you so much again for selecting me to be this year's recipient of the Larry S. Schlossinger Memorial Award.
Thank you, Olivia. And that concludes our scholarship ceremony. Thank you to generous donors and families who passionately support our students. Thank you to families and friends who joined us to celebrate, and congratulations to all scholarship recipients. We will also be having a group photo of all of the scholarship recipients and donors up at the stage in just a couple of minutes.